Hi, thanks for joining us. We're going to have an afternoon discussion right now about something that is very relevant, very important in the practice of midwifery and in the direction that the Matrona is going these days. So this is JD right here, whom you know and love from the correspondence course and all the other behind-the-scenes work that she does. And this is Emily. Emily's a former graduate of the Matrona who has spent the past 6 months actually researching the topic that we are going to be talking about right now, which is something called a PMA. And if you haven't heard about a PMA yet, you will be. I know that a big question that comes up is, I want to practice midwifery. I want to be a midwife. I want to sit with women during birth. How does that practice unfold? Because I know that a lot of us feel that the current model of care, the certification and licensing program, it's not what suits us, and it's certainly not what suits the women and families that we take care of. So there's a dilemma here. And what's so interesting is that when there's a dilemma, when there's a concern, there's always a solution not far behind. So we think that we have something to say about the solution of how do we practice in the highest and best way, in a multi-sensual, multi-dimensional way, all right, that allows us to practice freely according to our conscience and according to the autonomy that women and families are looking for in themselves and in their caregivers as they go through a very transformative experience of birth. So, once again, that brings us back to something called a PMA, Private Membership Association. All right, so here goes. So Emily has been doing 6 months worth of intense and serious research about what this PMA is, has brought it to us, brought it to the Matrona, and we want to bring it to you. We want to see it popularized and see it coming into practice today. So, what would you say is the key point that we would want to know about this?
Well, I think the biggest relevance that the PMA has in the birth world is that, so the Constitution grants us the right to assemble and provide goods and services with one another in a private association, which means that people would willingly enter into a group called an association that is outside the public domain. So the laws that are in place to protect the public have no jurisdiction within this private association. When we're talking about providing birth services for somebody, this is an area where in the public domain it's come under a lot of scrutiny from the federal and state jurisdiction and the licensing regulations. We have the right to have this be a private matter, not a doctor or caregiver-patient relationship, but a member-member relationship where we have a personal decision to work together.
This is what we've been waiting for, all right? And I believe that this was the hallmark of the Renaissance of midwifery, that I knew about birth and I was really interested in birth. And you are pregnant and you want me to stand with you. And that's just between us. Right. This is our private, personal, all right? Not private like secret, private personal experience that we're putting together. And here's the news. The Constitution absolutely sanctions that, okay? Through the First and the 14th Amendment, it sanctions our ability to have this private association, as we're calling it, this private relationship, and I offer you what I have to give, and you tell me what you need. Am I right?
Right. So the Matrona has been offering midwifery education since 2001. And in the past 4 years, we've been offering our midwifery correspondence course, which brewed for a little while, but became this beautiful entity to offer midwifery to people all over the web of the earth. And now we are seeing that it is coming back to life and offering an authentic, holistic, family-based, viable option within a PMA. for midwifery, for home birth midwifery.
And how much this benefits both mother and caregiver, mother and birth attendant, mother and midwife, all right? This is a way for women who want to have the knowledge of birth to be able to offer it in a way that is not relegated or mitigated by law or certification, but mainly an authentic, transparent relationship between a mother and a midwife, a family and a caregiver.
That's rooted in deep anatomy and physiology, a complete academic, didactic midwifery experience, education, while bringing in all of the other aspects that make the Matrona what it is and unique, like no other midwifery program, such as the intuitive component.
The whole idea of mystical intelligence, all right? We have a very high-level anatomy and physiology matrix and intelligence, but biology, we've said this many times, biology without the mystical, intuitive component is flat. And women know this, and families know this.
And people who are studying midwifery know this. And I hear them time and time again coming out of another even educational experience saying, I'm missing something. What am I missing? What is happening here? This isn't quite what I thought midwifery was going to be.
Exactly. Exactly. And it wasn't. What we have today is not an accurate reflection of the midwifery renaissance. It is not. This was not what some of the early great ladies of midwifery envisioned, all right, as the return of midwifery and a different type of care, all right. So we are offering a basic entry-level knowledge of birth along with a whole intuitive component. And now we're offering you something, a PMA, in which you can practice this, in which you can offer this to your clients and families.
A way to be within the realms of a legal practice that allows the space to honor the intuitive component that exists in the relationship between a family and a caregiver when they're preparing to welcome a child. It doesn't disregard that. I mean, even the PMA itself is sort of a bridge between the intuitive and the intellectual. You know, it honors what you know is true, that when two people decide they're going to do something, that's their own business. They have the autonomy to decide that. Two people can do something together. But it also uses, you know, the wisdom of our forefathers who wrote that into the Constitution of this country to protect that for us.
That is a really important point, that we are not describing something that is not totally within the law and the legal system of our country. This is not something that's under the radar. This is already an entity in its own, this idea of having a private membership association, almost like a direct care practice, okay, with someone. And once again, this is totally sanctioned by our Constitution and by our legal system in modern day practice.
Right, it's being used already.
Yes. Yes. And who is it being used by? Doctors who have basically decided that the medical system does not serve their patients. Naturopaths who feel like they have a wealth of knowledge and they don't have the leeway to practice. All right, so here we are, midwives, who are carrying into birth, right, an expanded perspective of what it is to give birth, to give the light, to transform a family. And I think this is wonderful. You're going to hear more about it. We will be talking more about it. This is just a little introduction that we have for you. We will be able to answer very definitive questions about how this unfolds. We have part of this as our correspondence course. If you are interested in practicing midwifery without a license, out of the public sector into the private sector, our course is going to forward you in that way. All right, so stay tuned. Thanks.